grading is very widespread in our lives. I remember back in the day when I was at the university, I got a C in organic chemistry in the first semester, and I was quite sad about that because honestly, organic chemistry, that's what I dreamed about studying and becoming a master and a PhD at, pun intended. So, and this kind of like fired the fire under my buttocks in terms of me trying to become a better learner to get a better grade. So that was kind of like a silly motivation, but nevertheless, it did improve my skills. And what happened afterwards is that I managed to get a kind of like B plus or something in my second semester of organic chemistry at the university. And since then, I have becoming better and better, and now I'm quite a master of organic chemistry and even a PhD in this science, what is more. So, but this is just a funny story, or maybe it's quite a boring one, it's up to you to decide. What happens is that this prompted me to do another experiment in my life, which is about grading myself. How do I grade myself? Well, this is quite an easy operation. So what you need to do is have a notebook or a piece of paper and some writing utensil, right? Once you have that, you need to think, or rather I think about how do I grade myself, right? So what happens is that I typically think about that at the end of a particular day. Let's say I will ask myself questions. What went good during this particular day? Because I only have that much of the memory capacity to think about things, right? So then next question will be what went bad in this particular day? So next question is how can I improve tomorrow, provided there is still gonna be tomorrow, because who knows, you know what I'm saying? So you need to live every day as if it is your last, or live intensely and with an intent, things like that. So a little bit of the reminder to cherish, so to speak, every day of your life and be good about that. So I take a piece of paper and I basically split it into two parts. So there is one part that says good. Okay, so this is what I achieved on a particular day. Let's say I mopped the house, if it is a weekend, for example. I did salubrious groceries and I did not spend too much money on it. So for example, I didn't do the takeout that particular day. I cooked at home. I called my family. I talked to my friends. I checked in with somebody who is going through a difficult time, for example, right? Your list might as well be different from mine, so everybody is unique. But I kind of ask myself, so what did I do good? And then in this case, I can give myself a proverbial A grade, right? So for each of those items, if I want to have the entire, let's say, whatever it's called, set of grades, right? Damn, what's that? Transcript. Okay, so next column on my piece of paper in my gratitude journal, or the journal for thoughts, is the bad column. So, and I ask myself there, like, what went bad? For example, in my case, it could be, let's say it is a weekend, right? So I got a takeout and I spent on the takeout, instead of, let's say, 15 bucks, which I wanted to spend, I spent 30 bucks, right? If, again, I had money on that day. You need to have another column. The column will be, how can I improve, right? So you have all those bad things that you can whip yourself for, but at the same time, you might as well be whipping yourself endlessly, like for being a bad boy, so to speak, or a bad person, generally speaking. And at some point you need to ask yourself, okay, well, am I gonna be just kind of like crying all the time, or am I gonna take action and improve? That could be a little bit of the like brutal honesty introduced in this situation, which was my case, for example, and then I was like, okay, well, indeed, I don't want to cry all the time about my shortcomings and what I did bad on a particular day or during a particular week as I grade myself. By the way, you can do this daily, a little bit of grading, right? Maybe like a few minutes here and there. Or you can do it weekly. Just sit down and then take a full audit of your week. What went good, what went bad. And ultimately, you ask yourself, how can I improve, right? So maybe if I didn't talk to some, like, let's say, like family member, I'm gonna set myself some sort of goal and say, well, I'm gonna talk to that family member. I'll just call them, right? Or at least write them a message, things like that. If I have not been seeing a friend of mine for a long time, then I'm gonna again, send them a message, give them a call by a particular due date, by a particular deadline, which I set for myself, and I try to follow it, because the deadlines are kind of like magical. They push you to do things, even great things sometimes, so that's pretty amazing, in my opinion, to have deadlines. If I didn't do something that I was planning to do, I would skip a reward, which I was going to introduce for doing that particular thing. That's just how it works. That's just how it works, in my opinion. You cannot always skip doing things and get rewards at the same time, right? That's not the case here. You just need to be strict with yourself to some extent, right? Say, well, if I wanted to write this particular paper for something or something like that, right? So then I'm going to get a reward, which is going to be, let's say, get a cheeseburger from a local restaurant, right? So, but if you didn't write this particular paper or report, whatever it may be, for an example's sake, then you're not going to get the cheeseburger for that particular restaurant. So, and it will kind of like keep you real about things, right? So you will know that, okay, well, if you do a good job, you get a reward. That's what happens to me. If I don't do a good job along some sort of task which I was going to perform in a good fashion, then I will skip the respective reward. That's as simple as that. Okay, so why do you do that? So, because in this case, you will not dilute the value of the reward. Imagine that no matter how you perform, you always get $100,000 every month, right? At some point, you'll be like, okay, well, I might as well just be completely lazy and then stay at home, for example, and then not show up at work for work at all, and I'll still get $100K a month, right? Hypothetically speaking. So, and at the same time, this will not feel as rewarding to get those multiple hundreds, thousands of dollars or whatever we had in our example, right? So you might as well be very complacent and, okay, well, I don't have to improve, I don't have to push myself, I will always get the money which is set for me by a hypothetical boss or something like that, and then I will always be able to afford whatever I can afford using that particular amount of money, right? So same with reward. No matter how you work, no matter how you, let's say, train or do your science, do your entrepreneurial job, you are always gonna get a cheeseburger, for example, right? And then at the same time, this cheeseburger will become very diluted. You'll be like, okay, well, it's just another cheeseburger. Not so much of the actual fun is obtained from that. You don't have much of that satisfaction which comes with the victory of some sort. Which is also making the cheeseburger taste better. Okay, anyway, so you get the point here. So the rewards become more valuable when they are sparse. And when they are deserved, because you had extra satisfaction when you enjoy your well-deserved reward after you achieved your goal of some sort. Grading myself keeps me on the toes, especially when it comes to IPAs. These are income producing activities. And I know that, okay, well, I'm gonna grade myself at the end of a day or at the end of a week, and I had better do a good job in order not to fall behind, right? So, because if I get, let's say, C's everywhere in my performance items, right? I will know that I'm not going to do a good job overall. I'm not going to achieve good or great things. I will maybe achieve things which will let me get by, for example. But since you are an ambitious person, you want to achieve a little bit more. You don't want to be mediocre. You want to be good, you want to be great, and so on. You want to push yourself, fundamentally, to hack the life in a proper fashion. In addition to being kind of scared about falling behind in life when I grade myself, also this grading situation gives me the sense of being victorious, right? So I know that if I get a good grade, I will become victorious, right? So those things kind of like go together, and then I'll be able to achieve certain benefits in terms of rewards, for example, right? Or whatever else the benefit might be. Maybe not always you have to go to some sort of restaurant and order yourself a cheeseburger, right? So there could be like many other rewards you can potentially find. Maybe it's gonna be a nice long walk in the forest, for instance, right? Maybe you'll be able to go to some sort of grocery store with healthful food, for example. Lots of topics revolve around food, right? Or maybe you are gonna go to the circus, for example, and reward yourself with a circus performance. Okay, so maybe you will be able to go get yourself some sort of exercise rings, put them on a tree, and then have some fun with the exercise rings on the tree, right? It's also like a nice reward activity. Maybe you'll be able to go and then have some sort of small cookout with your friends, or just gather and have some tea or coffee and a nice meaningful conversation to resolve some sort of problems potentially, right? Or have some breakthroughs in your ideas. The rewards can be plentiful once you achieve your goal and once you give yourself a grade in an honest fashion. Every time I wake up and I know that this grading is gonna be happening at some point, I know that I'll be grading myself at some point at the end of the day or at the end of the week. I found myself thinking a very interesting thought. You do well in a particular course, whatever it might be, chemistry, for example, organic chemistry, then you get a good grade, right? If you do a bad job in the course of organic chemistry, then you get a bad grade, right? So those things normally happen that way, unless there are unlessables, okay? And some exceptions, whatever they might be. So, when it comes to just daily situations on which I grade myself, I wake up and I know, okay, well, there's going to be a set of daily situations. Maybe I'll need to donate some books, right? Maybe I need to wash the floors, do the dishes, cook some sort of salubrious dish, follow the proper diet. I know that I can achieve those goals. Those are totally attainable. They were done in the past by many people, so how am I different, right? I can also achieve those goals. If somebody could do it, I also have a decent chance to do that as well. So, and I think about myself as having potentially two versions, version A and version B. Version A is amazing, right? So it does everything right, and it's very capable of doing those things right and achieving an A grade at the end of the day, for instance, if I were to grade myself at the end of a particular day, right? At the same time, I also can be version B, which is bad version of myself, doesn't do those small yet essential tasks, doesn't mop the floors, doesn't do dishes, doesn't cook salubrious meals, doesn't follow the proper diet, doesn't fast, and so on. And quite obviously, if again I'm honest with myself, this version B of myself will get a bad grade. So, this was my revelation. Basically, I had to set myself right from the beginning of the day, and then all of a sudden I have this kind of like mental pathway that gives me the light in order to eliminate all those goals which I need to do in a good fashion and get a good grade at the end of the day. Overall, grading myself keeps me accountable in front of myself. It gives me questions. Okay, what I'm doing at the moment, is it gonna be a good thing? Would I get a good grade by myself for, let's say, picking my nose, or would I get a bad grade from myself for picking my nose, right? Or whatever else it might be. Maybe you touch your face too often, right? So maybe you don't wash your hands, maybe you, I don't know, maybe you don't meditate, you don't exercise, and so on, right? Ask yourself, honestly, if you are the grader of yourself, would you give yourself a good grade for this action, or would you give yourself a bad grade for this action? And then think about that, right? So what's better, right? When you go to sleep exhausted, achieved and full of good grades, or you go to sleep not exhausted, knowing that you could have done more, and then you have bad grades from yourself. The choice is yours. Who are you? Version A or version B? Are you amazing or are you bad? This is up to you a lot of times to set up and act accordingly. Keep hacking the life. We are supporting you. Great success!